That's exactly. We've been having some bad meetings. That's exactly what we've been having. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
The one you gave.
Yeah.
Free. here. And they, of course, sometimes we listen to 88.9. There's a lady that has a broadcast on there. And, of course, there's been a lot of the news lately about abortion. Abortion. This dear lady, she has a talk show, where she had a segment on there about abortion. And, of course, I think everyone knows how we stand on that. But, you know, there are those ladies out there that somehow got involved with that. And it's a terrible thing. And the guilt and the remorse of having that done, you know, it takes God's grace and mercy to get through that, even after they do. And I know again, but you know, I heard this, and this was what they said, and what come to my mind when I was singing the song, Jesus Paid It All. One of the ladies, if I got this right, one of the ladies that had an abortion, or was going to have one, and the doctor said, well, I'll take that upon me, and I'll let that sin be charged to my account. Well, you know, it don't work that way. The only person that can take that sin away is Christ.
That's right.
Does anybody understand what I'm saying? That young man, he was a doctor, and I think he had in good intentions by saying, I'll take that, Brother John. But hey, it don't work that way.
Amen.
I mean, it's got to go to Jesus Christ and the blood. And so I'm glad Jesus did pay it all. And I'm hoping that truth will reach that heart, and that person can find relief only in the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Well, Brother John, glad to have you with us tonight. Everybody knows Brother John Houston. Used to come here years ago, and we're just glad to have you with us tonight, Brother John. And so, would you lead us to the Lord in prayer?
Lord Jesus, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to worship you in your house, Lord. I thank you for the folks that are here, and Lord, to keep me here tonight on the weekend. Lord, I just pray you watch over and take care of Mrs. needs this one here. I pray you do the same thing. I pray that you give us some words say that we need, Lord, touch our hearts, read our spiritual situation, Lord. We just thank you, praise you, Lord. Thank you for saving, Lord.
Yes.
We're so humble. Thank you, in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Brother John has reported to me that he had a bout with cancer, got real bad there, but the doctors have declared him cancer-free. Hallelujah, Brother John. I called him not too long ago, a few months ago, and he was talking to me about that. And so I'm so glad to hear you. Amen. Dear man of God, we love you, Brother John. 113, glory to his name. 113. everybody knows where everybody's at. Amen, Brother John. We have all our young people. A lot of our adults are up at in Humana at the youth camp up there. Here at Humana Baptist Church. So all our youth are up there, about 90 of them. I think we have on Sunday. So I was so amazed Sunday night. I come here, and of course we had our missionary, Brother Eddie was here, but it was so quiet. I could not believe it, Brother Bob. It was so quiet when I came in here. And so, it's amazing how those youth, I mean, and I have to stand up here and say, all right, everybody, sit down and be quiet. I have to do that, Brother John, every time. But I didn't have to do it Sunday night. It was real quiet. Well, anyway, this is what I was thinking, church. I know there's just a few of us here tonight. And I know we don't have a Freddie Young. And I know that we don't have some of them other guys that's going to amen. So what we're going to start doing, I'm going to appoint some of you men as an amen corner. You know what I'm saying? And so just be prepared that next time we have a little small group like this, I'm going to call you. And I want you to sit right over here. When the preacher gets up, you're going to say, amen. Amen. I never remember the old amen corner. I remember that years ago. And I think White Oak had a real good one there for many years. And I can remember a lot of those dear men that would sit up there on that pew on the left-hand side. And it was great. So men, you may be having to do that. You know how to say amen. Amen. Does anybody know how to say amen here tonight? Brother Tommy's going to be preaching here shortly. And he would appreciate an amen every once in a while. All right. So much for that. I have just a few announcements to make tonight. I think everybody knows about the Collins family. Brother William Collins and Brother Tony, and even the daughter. They did have a sister. His dad was killed in a car wreck. Monday sometime. I don't know all the details about that, but it was sometime Monday. He was killed in a car wreck. And so I was really shocked to hear that. I had met him on a few occasions. And so anyway, he was taken out of a car accident Monday sometime. Now, I looked at the obituary column, and I have talked with some folks, and apparently, you may correct me, but I think that the service will be here Saturday at 1 o'clock. And I do not think there's going to be no visitation Saturday, Friday night. Is that right, Sister Joyce? No visitation. Sure. Just probably a family, and who else they allow to come in. So, then the service will be here Saturday at 1 o'clock. And afterward, I think he will be cremated. So, anyway, that's the arrangement for Brother Anthony Collins.
I was just going to let some people know that. A lot of people in the church do not realize that that's Miss McGaffey's brother.
Diane McGaffey. Everybody know that? That's Diane McGaffey's brother. And so they say she's really taking it pretty hard on what I've heard. And I called a new friend of mine over at Pleasant Hill where Joy, his daughter, goes to church at. And I think they're going to have dinner sometime Friday for that family. That's what one of the men told me there at the church as I called him today. Now, again, that's just what he told me, Joyce, so I'm taking the word for it. Anyway, so I don't know what our ladies are going to do. Nothing? Or we don't know?
We won't.
But, Calvary may do something.
Calvary may be doing something, but I think from what they told Joyce today, his wife has a group that's doing dinner for them after the funeral Saturday, and they're not going to have visitation as far as visitation is concerned. So unless Calvary may be doing some snacks or something for on.
Sure.
We won't own.
Okay.
That'll be it.
All right. So anyway, I think everybody, 1 o'clock here Saturday afternoon, if you want to come to the memorial service, be here 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. All right. Just a few other announcements. Please remember Brother Bob and I will be at the Haralson County Jail tomorrow night preaching, Brother Bob.
Amen.
Don't still go with it. Anyway, we've been asked to go there, and so please remember us tomorrow night. I've been asked to announce, I think everybody knows Kevin McCord. Everybody knows Kevin McCord of the Servants.
Yes.
Anyway, his mother, Adina McCord, is in bad shape. This lady's sister called us this afternoon, Julia Watts. This is her sister. And she said something about really into her in prayer also. And then I know some of you don't know this lady, but she's a dear lady I know. She goes to Grace Baptist Church where Brother Ken Martin, the pastor. Her name is Pauline Thrasher. Dear lady that I've known for many years. She is at Emory Hospital, and she's not doing good. And so Brother Thrasher asked me to please remember to pray for her. She's a dear, sweet lady. And so please remember her. All right. Vacation Bible School next week. Everybody got that? Everybody geared up to that? Next week, Vacation Bible School. All right. And I know this is a little bit off the track, but I don't know how many people know what tomorrow is. You have to be a veteran. You have to have served in the military to know what tomorrow is. 75 years ago, D-Day, June the 6th, 1944, the Allied forces hit the beaches of Normandy and, of course, began the invasion to try to end World War II from the Eastern Front. And I was looking at that a little bit today. Of course, I know President Trump's been over there with the British and all of that. They've been talking about that. Brother John, near 10,000 died on the beaches of Normandy that day. When they hit the beaches of Normandy, I think near 5,000 Americans died before they even got off of the beach. 5,000. And of course, all of that has to do with freedom, shedding their blood, that we might be able to have freedom. So anyway, I just thought I would mention that.
Amen.
And I know, brother, some of you might remember that. And it may be in the news tomorrow. All right, Brother David, y'all come and we'll take up this evening's offering. I hope you prayed today for the service. And somewhere today we got along and prayed, because I knew there was going to be a lot here tonight. But hey, we're still going to have
Amen.
and we're still going to have a good time in the Lord. And so just because it's just a handful of us here, that doesn't mean we can't have a good time in the Lord. All right, Brother David, lead us to the Lord in prayer.
Lord, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be in your house once again, Lord. I pray, Father, that you would be with Tom's family, Lord, and bless him in this time of sorrow, dear Father. Lord, I pray, God, that you would be with all these requests Brother Charles has mentioned. Lord, a special prayer to God goes out to the youth camp and the manager, Father.
Yes, Lord.
Lord, I pray, God, that you would be with the kids, the counselors, dear Father, Lord, to help them to have a good trip without incident, Father. Thank you, Lord, for the 4 children that have been saved already. Lord, I pray, God, that you will continue to work there, Father, be with the preachers, the ones that speak. Lord, again, I just pray, God, that you're coming, that you will be with them this week, Father. And Lord, help them on their way home, Father. Thank you, Lord God, for this church. Thank you, Lord, for each member represented. Thank you, Lord, for your mercy, your grace, your love. I love you, Lord Jesus. Amen.
stand. We'll have this moment of fellowship and turn around and just shake hands with your neighbor. Tell them you're praying for them. Amen. Are you glad to say tonight? All right. They may be watching us up there in the mountains, so we got to show a little bit of light. Amen. Amen. Well, don't forget Saturday, we do have visitation. We will have it Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. You that want to come, and we'll try to work that out. Time for those that want to come to the memorial service for the colleges. But anyway, be much in prayer for one another. And, a lot to pray about. And, I got 2 phone calls today from people that stand in need of prayer. And I could just go on and on and on. Anyway, Brother Tommy's going to come preach to us here.
Amen, brother.
In a few minutes.
Amen.
I hope that we'll be prayed up today. All right, my wife's going to sing one. That's that, Brother Tommy, you come. Now, we always say this. Our altars are always open.
Amen.
Pray. Hey, they're always open.
A life that was useless, he now crumbled in sin, fighting
Amen.
All right, I hope everybody's having a good night tonight.
Amen.
Amen.
Now, before we get started on this, let me just say something about, a little bit about how this came about. Brother Andy asked me Sunday night if I would preach for the night, and I've had this thought on my heart for several weeks, and every time I would go to try to figure out what to do with it, I just had a blank mind. Couldn't think of it. Like we do a lot of times, and you just have to understand that anytime, it doesn't matter where you're at, or especially with me, I get very nervous when it comes to preaching. And sometimes I get kind of a little sick, at my stomach about it. And there's a reason for that, because I take this very sacred and very serious. This is not like just speaking to somebody, in a group somewhere.
That's right.
I taught basically all my life, been in front of groups and first one thing another, and teaching people how to be firefighters, and still teaching now where I work. And there was a time when I was kind of nervous about doing that, but it didn't. I got to find it where it just didn't bother me no more. I just got up and did what I had to do. But it doesn't matter how many times you do this, still get a little bit of nervous because you realize the seriousness of it.
Amen. That's right.
And you realize who you're talking about.
Amen.
But this thought came to my mind, like I said, several weeks ago, and I started trying to pull some information together and trying to work on this. And I don't know, maybe you're not like I am, I don't know, maybe some of you are. But you get a thought in your mind about something to preach. You start working on it, and then you'll tell yourself, "No, I don't like that. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know. Let me come up with something else." And then you'll start dishing around trying to come up with different other things, and it's like you can't get nowhere. And then the whole entire time, the Lord said, "Well, I gave you this. This is what I want you to do." And knowing all the time that He knows what He's doing.
Amen.
And a lot of times, we try to think of different other thoughts, but I couldn't get away from this. And it's a little bit different from some things maybe that we preach and think about. Sometimes preaching is not all about jumping and shouting and running up and down and things like that. Sometimes it's about some serious issues and things.
Right.
But this is something that, over a period of time, I have realized that there's a lot about it. But it's something that's very important. And I've realized in my life, with everything that my daughter went through and different other people that have gone through things, and I've watched, and even when I was working with the fire department, working at Tanner and all this other stuff, I've run across a lot of people that have gone through really bad situations.
Right.
That have experienced a lot of just bad things. But what I wanted to talk to you tonight about, and preach about a little bit, is peace. And one of the things I've learned over the years in doing a lot of things, even when I was working with a fire department, I would go to a fire and watch everything that a person owned go up smoke in a matter of about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
And that was one aspect. But the other aspect that really caught my attention and I really started noticing, paying attention to, was how their family reacted to it.
Yeah.
Because you see, I've seen people that were totally just upset and wondering, and even sometimes questioning God, why are they going through this? Why did I lose everything that I worked so hard for?
Right.
Why is this happening? And I've seen people that didn't know God that were cursing and doing all kind of stuff and, you know, just going crazy about stuff. And I thought, well, that's one way, I guess, that you look at it. But I've also seen people that lost everything they had. One lady in particular really stuck in my mind because we were at her house and she had lost everything she had. I'm talking about everything. They had just paid their house off. And she stood there while everything was burning and falling down and everything she got, lost all their vehicles. They had 3 vehicles, all 3 of them were in the house, or in the garage. And the only thing she had was the clothing on her back. And I noticed that some of the neighbors came up to her, and this is what I was paying attention to, not so much that I was talking to her or saying anything to her about it, but I watched the neighbors, and I noticed one neighbor come up and said, I just don't understand why you had to lose everything. You're one of the nicest people I've ever met. You'll do anything for anybody. And the neighbor was crying and tore up. And the lady turned and looked at him and said, it's all right.
Amen, brother.
She said, God gave it to me. God can take it away from me.
Lord, brother.
She said, but he'll give me more.
Amen.
And I thought, man, what a thought. When you watch everything you got just totally gone, you know, it's kind of like Job. Job lost everything he had.
Right.
I'm talking about everything. But the Lord restored it.
Amen.
So I began to think about this, and the more I tried to think of something else to preach on, the Lord just wouldn't let me get this off. And I kept coming back to it. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about peace. Now, in this world, people are walking about searching for peace.
Right. Yeah.
You can go up and ask people, if you have one thing that you could get in this world, what would it be? And some of them would say, well, we want world peace. We won't just have peace everywhere. Well, that's not going to happen.
Right.
But a lot of people want that. And I've seen a lot of people that I've dealt with in the fire department and the tanner and all this other places that are going through all kinds of stuff, and they'll tell you, I just want some peace and quiet in my life. I just want things to be peaceful.
Right.
But you see, the world will offer you a false peace.
Right. Yeah.
They will tell you you can get some peace in this world, but it's false.
Amen.
Because you see, it may last for a little while and then it goes away.
Right.
And then it's gone. And sometimes what happens if we're not careful, we'll get that false peace, and then somewhere down the road, we'll lose it, and we'll go right back into that same road that we're in to begin with. And it's just like a little hamster in a wheel, just rolling and rolling and rolling, but not getting anywhere.
Right.
And that's the way a lot of people look at things when it comes to peace. And like I said, the world will offer you a false peace. Sometimes that might be through a ball, or drugs, or other things, but it won't last long. And then you got going out searching for peace again.
Right.
But the peace of God is totally different.
Right. Yes, sir.
So where does peace, I'm talking about true peace, where does it come from? Well, the Bible says, if you turn over into 1 Corinthians chapter number 14, and we'll talk about this peace for a little bit. 1 Corinthians chapter number 14 and verse number 33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. So, we realize that true peace comes from God. He's the author of peace. At times, you will feel so peaceful that you won't understand it. You can apprehend it, but you cannot comprehend it. So how do you get access to this peace that we're talking about? Well, it's really quite simple. First off, you have to be saved.
Amen.
Because without salvation, you can't know the peace of God.
That's right. That's right.
You see, that's why you can begin to understand a lost person. And here's one of the other things that I was going to mention to you too while we're talking about this stuff. I've been to a lot of funerals.
Right.
I've been to Catholic funerals. I've been to funerals with firefighters, law enforcement people, just all kind of funerals. And I've watched a lot of times how those things interact and how they play out, and I thought, man, some of these people don't have any clue what peace is.
That's right.
And it's because they don't know the Lord.
Right.
But then I've been to funerals where the people did know the Lord. It's entirely different.
Amen.
So we know that this peace comes from God. And in Colossians 3, in verse number 13, I believe it is. Verse 3 and number 15. And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which also you are called in one body, and be ye thankful.
That's good.
Now, peace is not the absence of trouble.
Right.
It's the presence of God in the trouble.
Yeah.
You see, the Bible doesn't say we're not going to have trouble.
That's right.
The Bible says we will have trouble, we will have trials, we will have to go through things.
Right.
But you see, the peace that God gives, it doesn't do away with the trouble. We're still going to experience it. And it's not the absence of trouble, it's just it means that God's right there in the presence of the trouble with you.
Right.
So you're not going through it by yourself.
That's right.
Peace is also a fruit of the Holy Spirit.
Yes, it is.
So, what is perfect peace? It's a condition of freedom from disturbance within the soul.
Amen.
It is perfect harmony rejoicing within. Perfect peace is to be spiritually healthy.
Amen.
Boy, that means a lot.
Amen.
There can be no room for jealousy, envy, disobedience, uncontrolled temper, pride, or any other kind of thing, intolerance, or any of that kind of stuff when there's peace. Perfect peace.
Amen.
So you're not going to be able to have peace in your heart if you've got envy and strife and an ill attitude and a temper and all that kind of stuff, and everything's just keeping you upset, and you get road rage. You're not going to have peace in your heart.
Right.
Because God's not going to put up with that stuff.
Right.
You see, in order for us to have perfect peace inside of us, we got to get rid of all that junk.
Yeah.
Amen.
Now, we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Go to Mark chapter number 4. Mark chapter number 4. Now, you understand that God is the author of peace. Jesus Christ is the Prince of Peace.
Amen.
What the Bible says. And when the Lord came down and died on the cross of Calvary, He became the go-to, or the in-between, if you will, between us and God, and reestablished that peace with Him.
Amen.
Through Him. It's through His shed blood that we have peace with God. In Mark chapter number 4, you'll find a lot of times, see, you can be going through all kind of trials, you can be going through all kind of tribulations, and sometimes you might get to the point where you think, man, this is just more than I can bear. This is just way too much. I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to deal with it. But in Mark chapter number 4, and I think it's verse number 39, now you got to understand that Jesus, He was on the ship. Actually, we'll back up just a little bit. In verse number 35, He said, And the same day when the evening was come, He saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took Him even as He was in the ship, and there were also with Him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. Now pay attention to these next verses. And he, talking about the Lord, was asleep in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? Now you got to understand, they're in the midst of a storm.
Right.
A terrible, terrible storm. I mean, it's been beating on the ship and it's full and probably about to sink. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting there thinking, man, we're going to all die. Yeah. Where's Jesus?
Right.
And they get to looking for him. Well, he's asleep. And he arose, pay attention to what he said, verse number 39, and he arose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm.
Amen.
Now, have you ever been in a situation in your life where the storm's been beating you up and battering you, and you're going through all kinds of stuff, and you feel like you're just about to go under? You're fixing to go down.
Yeah.
And you cry unto the Lord.
Yes.
And in the midst of all that stuff, because pay attention, in the midst of all this storm, he was there with them.
That's right.
They weren't by themselves.
Right.
And see, when you're going through something, you're not by yourself. He's with you.
That's right.
But as they were going through this storm and everything was bashing and battering the ship and everything else, they were about to sink and thinking to themselves, probably, we're about to die. And our master's asleep. And they go and wake him. And have you ever been in that type of situation where you're going through maybe the worst storm in your entire life? You feel like you're fixing to go down for the last time. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how you're going to get out of it. But then you realize that he's there with you. And then all of a sudden, all he does is come out and say, Him.
Amen, brother.
Stop. And everything goes calm.
Right.
Now, that helps me to understand when things are going on in our lives sometimes, whether it be cancer, whether it be addictions, whether it be this, whether it be that, it doesn't make any difference what it is. Whatever you're going through, sometimes when you really get in touch with the Lord and really get Him to understand what's going on, He can come up and just say, Peace, be still. Or He may come up to that cancer and say, Be gone.
That's right.
You don't have anything to do here anymore. You see, it depends on who we put our trust in.
That's right.
It depends on who we're looking to. And you see, these guys were on the ship, about to sink. And then they finally realized, hey, we need to go to Him. Now, he wasn't worried. He wasn't worried about what was going on. He wasn't worried about the storm. He wasn't worried about everything that they were going through and dealing with. Why? Because He's the Master.
Amen. Amen.
So when we look at perfect peace, it's perfect in quality. God is the author of peace. All of peace is imperfect and won't last. So any of this peace that the world has, it's not going to last. Only may give you a little bit of comfort for a little bit.
That's right.
It may help you out for just a little bit of time. You see, you can take the alcohol and you can take the drugs, and that'll give you a little bit of comfort for a little while. But then it's all over and you got to have it again.
That's right.
You got to go back searching for it again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Because it's not lasting. But perfect peace is perfect in quality.
Amen.
Because there's nothing like it anywhere else. Not only that, it's perfect in quantity. The supply never ends.
Amen. Amen.
It never runs out. It is sufficient. You remember Paul when he said he had that thorn in his flesh? And he prayed unto the Lord said, My grace is sufficient for thee.
Right.
You see, Paul had that thorn. He didn't, and I don't know what it was, but I mean, whatever it was bothering Paul. But the Lord said, Paul, don't worry about it. It's all right. It's sufficient.
Amen, brother.
It'll be all right. It's sufficient in quantity and it exactly meets our needs. You see, I don't know what your need is. I don't know how to meet your need. And sometimes you don't know what your need is.
Amen.
You don't know how to meet your need.
Amen.
You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going to take place 5 minutes from now.
Amen.
You don't know what tomorrow holds or what's going to take place. But see, the Lord does.
Amen, brother.
And whatever we need, He already knows ahead of time what we need. And He said exactly that He'll meet our needs according to His grace.
Yes, sir.
Whatever we're going through, whatever we need, all we got to do is ask Him.
Amen.
It's perfect in quality, it's perfect in quantity. Go to Philippians chapter number 4. Philippians chapter number 4. Now, here's we're going to start kind of giving you an idea of how you can go about getting this peace that the Lord's talking about. And I'll find it. Philippians chapter number 4. And I think it is verse number 7. Now pay attention to this verse. Well, let's go back up to verse number 6. He said, be careful for nothing. And pay attention to these words. But in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And then he follows it up with this verse. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and mind through Christ Jesus.
Amen. Amen. Yes, Lord. Amen.
You got to understand something. In order to have perfect peace, you have to have your heart and your mind centered where He is.
Right.
You say, okay, now how do I get that? How do I get my heart and my mind where it needs to be? Well, perfect peace comes to us by Jesus Christ, by the Holy Spirit, by His Word, by obedience on our part.
Amen.
And by making sure that we give plenty of praise to Him and prayer. You see, the only way that we're going to have access to perfect peace is if our mind and our heart is centered on His Word.
Amen. That's right.
You know, the Bible says, thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. So the only way that we're going to be able to have access to perfect peace is if our mind and our heart is centered in this Word and we're in obedience to Him. Because see, all this comes into play. I mean, we can't be expecting perfect peace if we're not obedient to what He says. If you look at the Lord Jesus Christ before He went to the cross of Calvary, He went to the garden to pray. And if you remember, He was praying, Lord, if it be Thy will, let this cup pass from me. And then He said, nevertheless, not my will, but Thine. And He prayed, I think He said, Brother Charles, 3 times.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And His sweat became as great drops of blood because He was praying so intently and so serious about what was going on.
Right.
And then finally, he just realized that that's what God wanted him to do, and he yielded to God to do what God wanted him to do. And you see, a lot of times in our lives, when things are going on and we may not understand it, and we may not be able to comprehend everything that's going on, sometimes what we're going through is that God is just looking for us to be able to yield ourselves to Him.
Right.
Sometimes what He wants is just to say, Lord, I give it to You. Whatever You have me to do, that's what I'm going to do. Because see, when we get to the point where we're obedient to what He wants us to do, and we yield ourselves to Him, then we see great and mighty things get done.
Amen to that, brother.
But if we're not obedient and we're not willing to yield to what He wants us to do, then we can't expect that perfect peace.
That's right.
And that's one of the things we have to look at sometimes is, Lord, what would you have me to do?
Amen.
What do you want me to do in this situation? What's going on? Well, what are you trying to get me to do? Because see, in this life, from day to day, we get mixed up in all this old junk of the world. And the devil's very good at deceiving us.
Right.
The devil's very good at getting us off track. You say, well, how's he do that? Well, you know, he knows that if you're saved, he can't take your salvation.
Amen.
He knows that.
Amen.
But he'll try his best to rob you
Yes.
of anything and everything that he can that the Lord's trying to give to you.
Amen.
He will rob your testimony. He will rob you of everything you've got. He'll try to make you a Christian of non-effect.
That's right. Right.
He knows he can't take your salvation, but if he can destroy everything there is about you, that's what he'll try to do.
Amen.
And he'll try to take away everything about you. He'll try to make you to where when people... See, here's one of the things about what we're required to do, and one of the things that makes a difference. The Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers.
Amen.
You see, part of our job is to go around promoting peace
Sure.
to one another. Now, how can we promote peace to somebody if we're over here talking about, well, oh, so-and-so, you know, they said something about me, and I didn't like it. Or if you go up to somebody and say, hey, did you hear about so-and-so? Did you hear about what was going on with them? Man, I can't believe that. Or, you know, sometimes when you have people that come into church, you know, and different things like they do here, and this has been said, and it's not nothing new, a lot of people know it. Some of the other churches around here have told people that come to visit their church, you're not welcome here, go to Happy Valley.
Amen. Yeah, glory, brother.
Now, I consider that a compliment.
Amen.
So, come on down, we'll take it.
Amen.
Now, here's the thing. Sometimes what we don't understand, see, is if we're not careful, we will allow the devil to destroy or alter our way of thinking in that regards to where we become non-effective.
Right.
And then when we have things and situations that come and we go to pray to the Lord about different things, and the Lord said, I can't help you right now. Because you got all that junk in you.
Yeah, amen, brother. That's right.
You got to get it out. I say he can't be giving you perfect peace or being there if we got jealousy and envy and strife and all that in our hearts.
Amen, brother.
You see, Lord, what he wants is he wants everything to be cleaned out of your heart, so that there's not all that junk in there. He's not going to inhabit a place where you got all that junk.
Amen.
It's just not going to do it.
That's
You
right.
got to get all that mess cleaned out. Here's the one thing that we understand. You see, a lot of people's mind is messed up because they don't have it cleaned out.
That's right.
I've known people that I believe with all my heart they were saved or are saved, but their mind's so messed up because they've allowed the devil to put all that junk in there.
Yeah.
And same thing with their heart. I've known people that were in church and been in church all their life or whatever, and then all of a sudden they just get like a cold heart and an indifferent heart, all that. That's just the devil putting junk in your heart and in your mind. And you see, the Bible says, what the Bible's teaching us is that in order for us to have the perfect peace that the Lord wants us to have, we got to get all that junk in our mind cleaned out. We got to get all that junk in our heart cleaned out.
Yeah.
Amen.
And then the Lord can occupy and give us that perfect peace that we need. But it doesn't come without some work.
Right. Right.
You know, you can't just expect the Lord to give you perfect peace if you're not going to be obedient to Him and do what He wants us to do. You see, the Lord has something for you to do once you get saved.
Yes. Yes.
And it becomes our responsibility to fulfill what He has for us to do.
Amen.
Get saved, that's the easy part. Because all you got to do is accept Jesus Christ. Learning how to live a Christian life sometimes is not easy.
That's right.
And it takes work.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a lot of work.
Amen.
Now, how can you help yourself in that situation? By making sure you stay in that Bible.
Amen. That's right.
By making sure you stay on your knees. And by making sure you're obedient. Because see, if you stay in that Bible, you stay on your knees in prayer, and you're obedient to what the Lord wants you to do,
Amen.
then you can get some of that perfect peace.
Yes.
But it takes work. You know, once we get saved, we just don't sit down on the pew and say, okay, Lord, bless me and give me what I need. That's not how it works. He wants to bless you, He wants to give you things, but it takes work on our part. You know, the Bible says, present your bodies a living sacrifice.
Amen.
That's the key word. It is a living sacrifice. We have to sacrifice things. We have to sacrifice all our old junk and get all that stuff out of the way and sacrifice it on, get it gone. And that's pretty much a day-by-day basis. And the Lord knows that. He knows what you're going through. He knows what you're dealing with. He knows everything that's going on in our lives. And like I was telling in the Sunday school room this past Sunday, when you fall, get back up.
Amen.
I can assure you one thing, and this is medically true as well because I've seen it happen several times. If you fall down and stay down, eventually you'll die.
That's right. Amen.
And if you fall down spiritually and stay down, eventually you'll die.
Right.
Spiritually.
Amen.
That's why the Bible said if you fall down, get up. Now you messed up, you can get up, get it cleaned up, keep going.
Amen.
If you fall down, get back up. Y'all, it doesn't matter how many times. If you fall down, get up, fall down, get up, fall. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. You don't fall down and stay down.
Come on.
That's exactly what the devil wants. The devil would like it for you to fall down and stay there. And walk around in your self-pity and all this other stuff. Oh, woe is me.
Right.
Oh, woe is me. I can't believe them people treated me that way. I can't believe them people said that. Oh, people, they say that to you about every day.
Yeah.
I thought over the years, at different times, how many people have said stuff about me. Different things. And I finally got to the point one time where I don't care.
Amen, bro.
You weren't the one saved.
Right. That's right.
You're not the one that promised me a home in heaven. You're not the one that died for me. You're not the one that's going to take me home in heaven. You're not the one that's supplying all my needs according to His riches and glory.
Amen.
You're not the one that's giving me everything I need to sustain me. So when you start realizing just who it is that's giving you what you got, we ought to be giving Him all of our attention. But see, if you're not careful, we'll allow the devil to get us focused on what everybody's saying.
Amen.
About us.
Right. Amen.
Oh, can you believe that person said something? You're a good old boy. Why would somebody say that about you?
Right.
Why would somebody talk about you that way? I can't believe they talk about you that way. The devil don't care. The whole entire time he's trying to tell you to have a pity party and make you feel bad and all this stuff, he's probably over there telling somebody else how you ought to go down and talk about him.
Yeah.
The devil don't care about you. He didn't die for you. He don't love you. He don't care nothing about you. But the Lord died for you. He cares about you. He loves you. He wants you to have all the benefits and all the things that's coming to you that you can get if we'll only just yield ourselves to Him and be obedient.
Amen.
Clear our mind, clear our hearts. Get in this Word. Understand what this Bible has for us. Read it. Absorb it. Study it. Pray. That's how we get that perfect peace, is through this Word, through prayer and thanksgiving and giving God the glory. You see, that's why sometimes when something happens that's great and wonderful, that's why you have people shouting and running up and down the aisles and things like that. They're not doing it for show. They're giving Him honor and glory. And that's what He wants.
Amen.
He likes that. That's what He desires. That's what He wants. Is He did something for you.
That's right.
So he expects something back.
Yes, glory, brother.
When he does something for us, we ought to give him back our honor and praise and glory for what he's done.
Amen.
He didn't have to do it, but he did. He didn't have to die on the cross of Calvary so that I can have everlasting life, but he did.
Yes, thank you, right.
And you see, if we ever get to the point where we realize God's on our side,
Yeah.
he's got our best interest at heart. Not the devil, not this world, not all this other junk, and everything that's going on. It's him. He loves you, he cares for you, and he wants you to have perfect peace. That's why you can find people sometimes when everything's gone bad or something's taken place or they've had just this worst thing that you could ever possibly imagine. And sometimes they're just sitting over there thinking and praise the Lord.
Amen.
You know, some people look at that and say, I don't get it. You don't know what they've done. You don't know what they're experiencing. You don't know them. Maybe they know the Lord.
Amen.
See, if you're not saved, you can't have that. You don't have access to it. But a lot of times, even the ones of us that are saved, we're not even nowhere near close enough to the Lord, backslid out of kilter with the Lord, and we can't experience that. We've got to get all that junk out. We've got to get cleaned up. And that's not a problem. You can do that. That's what this altar's for. Come down here and get your mind cleaned out and your heart cleaned out, and the Lord will bless you more than you can bear. More than you can stand. I've seen it happen so many times. Brother Charles, you've seen it happen. The Lord just get a hold of somebody and go to bless them, and they would jump up and shout, run up and down the aisles and do different things like that. And it's just, they're just praising the Lord.
Amen.
I like it.
Amen, brother.
I like it when that goes on because it helps me to, it reminds me that there's somebody that loves me. And there's somebody that cares about me. And I too can enjoy that. And sometimes when this old world gets me consumed with everything that's going on, and I can just pray, get all that junk out of my life, get all that junk, my head cleared out, my heart cleared out. Oh man, you can rejoice and have fun too, because it's that peace that surpasses all understanding. I can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it. I couldn't if I wanted to, and I don't think you can either.
That's right.
Now one day we might understand it.
Amen.
I'm looking forward to the day when we all get to heaven, you know, maybe the Lord can sit down and explain how that works. And explain other things about how it works, because our little minds can't handle it.
Correct.
If the Lord tried to explain how that worked, it'd probably blow our mind. We can't understand everything
Right.
that the Lord does, because He's on a much higher plane than where I'm at.
Yeah, come on.
But one day we'll understand.
Amen.
Because you see, He said He'd take that veil away, He'd take that cloud away where we can see and understand. Right now we just can't do it. Our bodies couldn't handle it.
Right.
But one day we will. So just remember that peace. God's the author of peace.
Amen.
The world can give you peace, but it's false. It's not going to last long.
Right.
It might last for a few minutes and then it's gone, and you're right back in that same old rut you're in.
Right. Amen.
Trying to find some peace somewhere, but you can't find it. If you really want peace in your heart and your life, you need to find the Lord.
Amen. Right.
If you've never been saved, you need to be saved, because if you're lost, you can't experience that peace.
Right.
You got to know Him to know peace.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really about all I had. I hope maybe that was something that helps out.
Amen.
That's all I got.
Good preaching, brother.
Amen.
Thank you, Brother Tommy. You know, I guess we all live in a world where there's so much confusion,
Yeah.
so much unrest. So I think that message was written for you and I tonight was right on.
Amen, brother.
I I hope everybody here tonight, you love the Lord, you would be here. And you're faithful to God's house and you love God. And I know there's a lot of hearts that probably are just wondering what in the world's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe that peace you need, a little bit more of it tonight in your heart. And, you know, Romans 5, I think it's verse 1, therefore being justified by faith, we have peace with God.
Yeah.
You know, there's a difference between having peace with God and having the peace of God.
Yes.
I think, Brother John, I don't know where you brought that out or not, brother, but, you know, years ago, if you were lost, you didn't have the peace with God. There was a war going on in your heart.
Right.
And you were in trouble. And there was so much things going on, but thank God one day you came to an end.
Yes.
And the Lord said you waved that white flag and you said, the war is over with, Lord, I'm coming home. Amen. And so you have peace with God. But you know, a lot of times when we're going through life, sometimes all this trouble, we don't have the peace of God in our heart. But oh, listen, Brother Tommy, I couldn't say it no better, brother. Hey, there's so much out there the devil wants to rob us of our peace and joy and all of that. But hey, I'm glad that he's just a prayer away. And so let's just stand to our feet. I was thinking of that wonderful song that we used to sing called Wonderful Peace. And, well, Janice, you come to the piano. She sings it sometimes. Wonderful peace coming down from above. Amen. So I wanted to sing that song for you as we close the service out tonight. And you search your heart. And hey, if you need to come and pray, you know, at the altar, hey, let's just remember all these requests. Brother David's given us a prayer sheet tonight to pray. And remember Brother Bob and I tomorrow night. We'll be in the jail preaching there in Haralson County. And so we'll really need some help tomorrow night. So anyway, if she sings that song tonight, get you a prayer sheet and let the peace of God rule in your hearts tonight. Let it rule in your hearts. Amen. The devil wants to rob you, but hey, let the peace of God rule in your hearts tonight. Jesus said, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, but the peace that I give unto thee, it's the right kind of peace. Amen. There's going to be tribulation in the world, but hey, I'm glad I got His peace in my heart tonight. Sing that, Janice, if you don't mind, and let our hearts just be centered on that peace. Peace of God tonight in our hearts. Amen. Amen.
What a treasure I have in this wonderful peace.
No better way to get it than come and pray for it. Amen. Just come and pray. Amen.
My soul, so secure that the power this wonderful peace, resting sweetly in Jesus' control. For I'm kept from all danger, my night and my day, and His glory is flooding my soul. Peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweet wonder, my spirit, forever I marching down the pathway of time. Make Jesus your friend, ere the shadow.
All right, well, let's just stand to our feet. Well, I thank you for coming tonight. Amen. Praise the Lord that we can come and meet. Even though our young people's gone and it seems like that's the excitement in our midst, but yet I'm glad I can still worship the Lord.
Amen.
Don't forget this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock, we have visitation. Those will come. And if you want to come, we'll have a service here at 1 o'clock for Brother Collins. Amen. You know, we live in a troublesome world.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, glad would you say amen? We live in a very troublesome world. You know, Brother Collins, he didn't think Monday would be his last day on this earth. You think he got up Monday morning thinking, well, I'm just going to go about doing my thing, and I'm going to be a construction worker, and I'm going to build a house. The day before the sun set, his life was over. Every time I go up down 61 highway, I can't help think, I hope I'll make it home. I hope I'll make it home. I hope you make it home. Hey, I'm glad I'm ready, thanks. I'm glad that I'm saved tonight. If death angel would have called me, I know where I'm going. Amen. I hope everybody is saved tonight. Know Jesus Christ is your Savior. Boast not thyself of tomorrow. Thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Amen. Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'll be all right. Well, you don't know. Don't nobody know that. I mean, hey, we all want to live, but we just don't know. Amen. All right. Thank you for coming tonight. Turn around, don't forget the prayer sheet, and pray for those that's on the prayer sheet there. And you are dismissed.